Chapter 14. Prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. Brahma said, "My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, I am offering my humble obeisances and prayers just unto you. Your bodily features are of the color of clouds filled with water. You are glittering with a silver electric aura emanating from your yellow garments. Let me offer my respectful, repeated obeisances unto the son of Maharaj Nanda, who is standing before me with conch shell earrings and a peacock feather on his head. His face is beautiful. He is wearing a helmet and is garlanded by forest flowers, and he stands with a morsel of food in his hand. He is decorated with a cane, a buffalo horn bugle, and a flute. He stands before me with small lotus feet. My dear Lord, people may say that I am the master of all Vedic knowledge, and I am supposed to be the creator of this universe. But it has been proved now that I cannot understand you. You are present before me just like a child. You are playing with your boyfriends and calves, which might imply that you do not even have sufficient education. You are appearing just like a village boy, carrying your food in your hand and searching for your calves. And yet there is so much difference between your body and mine, and I cannot estimate the potency of your body. As I have already stated in the Brahma Samhita, your body is not material. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the body of the Lord is all spiritual. There is no difference between the Lord's body and his self. Each limb of his body can perform the actions of all the others. The Lord can see with his hands, he can hear with his eyes, he can accept offerings with his legs, and he can create with his mouth. Brahma continued, your appearance as a cowherd child is for the benefit of the devotees, and although I have committed an offense at your lotus feet by stealing away your boys and calves, I can understand that you have bestowed your mercy upon me. That is your transcendental quality. You are very affectionate towards your devotees. But in spite of your great affection for me, I cannot estimate the potency of your bodily activities. It is to be understood that when I, Lord Brahma, the supreme personality of this universe, cannot estimate the childlike body of the supreme personality of Godhead, then what to speak of others? And if I cannot estimate the spiritual potency of your childlike body, then what can I understand about your transcendental pastimes? Therefore, as it is said in the Bhagavad-Gita, anyone who can understand a little of the transcendental pastimes, appearance and disappearance of the Lord becomes immediately eligible to enter into the kingdom of God after quitting the material body. This statement is confirmed in the Vedas, where it is stated, simply by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can overcome the chain of repeated birth and death. I therefore recommend that people should not try to understand you by their speculative knowledge. The best process for understanding you is to submissively give up the speculative process and try to hear about you, either from yourself as you have given statements in the Bhagavad-Gita and similar Vedic scriptures, or from a realized devotee who has taken shelter at your lotus feet. One has to hear from a devotee without speculation. One does not even need to change his worldly position. He simply has to hear your message. And although you are not understandable by the material senses, simply by hearing about you, one can gradually conquer the nescience of misunderstanding. By your own grace only, you become revealed to a devotee. You are unconquerable by any other means. Speculative knowledge without any trace of devotional service is simply a useless waste of time in the search for you. Devotional service is so important that even a little attempt can raise one to the highest perfectional platform. One should not, therefore, neglect this auspicious process of devotional service and take to the speculative method. By the speculative method, one may gain partial knowledge of your cosmic manifestation, but it is not possible to understand you, the origin of everything. The attempt of persons who are interested only in speculative knowledge is simply wasted labor, like the labor of a person who attempts to gain something by beating an empty husk of rice paddy. A little quantity of paddy can be husked by the grinding wheel, and one can gain some grains of rice. But if the skin of the paddy has already been beaten by the grinding wheel, there is no further gain in beating even a huge quantity of the husk. It is simply useless labor. My dear Lord, there are many instances in the history of human society where a person, after failing to achieve the transcendental platform, engaged himself in devotional service with his with his body, mind, and words, and thus attained the highest perfectional state of entering your abode. The processes of understanding you by speculation or mystic meditation are all useless without devotional service. One should therefore engage himself in your devotional service, even in his worldly activities, and one should always keep himself near you by the process of hearing and chanting your transcendental glories. Simply by being attached to hearing and chanting your glories, one can attain the highest perfectional stage of entering into your kingdom. If a person, therefore, always keeps in touch with you by hearing and chanting your glories, and offers the results of his work for your satisfaction only, he very easily and happily attains entrance into your supreme abode. You are realizable by persons who have cleansed their hearts of all contamination. This cleansing of the heart is made possible by chanting and hearing the glories of your Lordship. The Lord is all pervading. As it is stated by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita, everything is sustained by me, but at the same time, I am not in everything. Since the Lord is all pervading, there is nothing existing without his knowledge. The all pervading nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be within the limited knowledge of a living entity. Therefore, a person who has attained steadiness of the mind by fixing the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord is able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord to some extent. It is the business of the mind to wander over varied subject matter for sense gratification. Therefore, only a person who always engages the senses in the service of the Lord can control the mind and be fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. This concentration of the mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord is called samadhi. Until one reaches the stage of samadhi or trance, he cannot understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There may be some philosophers or scientists who can study the cosmic nature from atom to atom. They may be so advanced that they can count the atomic composition of the cosmic atmosphere or all the planets and stars in the sky, or even the shining molecular particles of the sun or of the stars and other luminaries in the sky. but it is not possible to count the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Tam sajimam sadvaitam savatutam parijana sahitam Krishna chaitanya devam Shri Radha Krishna padan Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prashabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Panchakolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are important prayers by Lord Brahma. We're reading a summary, but when we come to the Srimad Bhagavatam verse by verse, we'll recognize that these are some of the key verses that Srila Prabhupada consistently quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam. Sthane stata shrutigatam dhanavan manobi. One should stay in one's position, but give up mental speculation and simply hear about Krishna. This verse about beating the empty rice paddy, again, very key verse. These verses are quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Prabhupada quotes them often. So we're doing a sort of a zip through, a quick summary study Prabhupada is giving. But each of these verses can be discussed in great detail. We could spend the next weeks and weeks just studying these prayers by Lord Brahma. I won't comment more right here. Are there any questions so far? Yes.
Better? Okay. In the last line of the last paragraph we just read, it said that it's impossible to count the qualities of Krishna. And we hear this a lot, especially Anantadev is chanting, it never gets to the end. And yet in Nectar Devotion, Krishna's qualities are enumerated as 64, and then, of course, 60 for Vishnu Tattva, and so on and so forth.
So, just to get us started, 64 prominent qualities of Krishna, Rupa Goswami describes, but there's unlimited quantities, not qualities. So even if we could count the number of stars in the sky, or Prabhupada says, smash the world to powder and then count the number of particles. Or in one place, Prabhupada said, roll up the sky like your bedroll. Even if we could do all that, we still wouldn't be able to count the transcendental qualities of Krishna.
So the 64 qualities that are enumerated in the Nectar Devotion, are they meant to be like categories that all of the innumerable qualities usually?
64 qualities, they're really meant to stimulate attraction to Krishna. One can think about Krishna as being a pleasing talker. One can think about Krishna being a pleasing dresser. One can think about Krishna being, in so many ways, full of transcendental qualities. And that will stimulate our natural affection and love for Krishna. But it's not exhaustive, nor is it that whatever quality, well, it has to fit in one of these 64. No, there's no limit.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would like to ask, what is the meaning of the word Godhead? How did it come about, that particular word?
That word was discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam class some days ago. I assume that the phrase was used because Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj must have used it. That's my supposition. As mentioned in the class, Godhead etymologically comes from Godhood. There's a class of words in English where Godhood means like toi, like Hindu toi, or Shunya toi, the quality of, or ness, like goodness, redness, freshness. So toi means ness in that sense, and hood means similarly. So manhood, the quality of being a man, womanhood, nationhood. In that way, there's lots of hood words. And some of those hood words have transformed by some etymological process into head, from hood to head. So Godhood turns into Godhead. That's the That's the linguistic process. Now, I had a theory, which I'll tell you about. This Godhead is a very philosophical term. You know, it's not a common term. Usually we say God. Devote myself to God, looking for God, the supremacy of God. There's a lot of talk about God, but you don't hear a lot of talk about Godhead. Generally, it's reserved for more philosophical contexts. And generally, Godhead also, it seems to me, tends to have more of an impersonal cast to it. I'll give a little more. So that when we speak about the Godhead, it's kind of like speaking about the absolute truth. The Godhead could be personal, could be impersonal, could be this, could be that. It's a sort of a philosophical term, Godhead, and often I would think used impersonally. So my theory was that this was brilliant, that Prabhupada took this impersonal term, largely impersonal term, Godhead, and put it together with the personality of. So you got this sort of, what would you say, combination, amalgam of personal and impersonal, or you got this impersonal term coupled with the personality of Godhead. Just as we hear the personified Vedas, we're used to thinking of the Vedas in as sort of books of knowledge, but then they become personal. The personality of the sun, and so on. So I thought this was brilliant. Prabhupada took this impersonal term, philosophical term, and coupled it with personality so that we get to understand that the absolute truth, the Godhead, is ultimately a person. That was my idea. Then I saw a transcription of a talk where my godbrother Yogeshwar Prabhu directly asked Srila Prabhupada what it means that, what is the meaning of Godhead? What does it mean that Krishna is the personality of Godhead? Prabhupada said, Godhead means Krishna is the head God. That's what Prabhupada said. Not at all the dictionary meaning. That's what Prabhupada said. In fact, speaking of dictionary meanings. Yeah, divinity or godhood, divine essence or nature. The divine nature of God as an abstract entity. That's one general definition. But Prabhupada, head God. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. I actually was reading some of the letters that Prabhupada was writing to Brahmananda, and in one of the discussions that Gargamani Prabhu and Mahadevi were having, this came up where he was explaining why he said Godhead, and he said that, as you said, that because Krishna is needing to be established as supreme and the supreme proprietor and controller of absolutely everything, just like in a company, Prabhupada actually said that someone in a company, when they're the superintendent, then they use the word Godhead in some like management positions. So he wanted to really imply that Krishna is the supreme controller, and it's Krishna, not just anyone. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. So yeah, actually I read that earlier today, so it was quite nice.
Good. Thank you. Okay, you want to read on?
Maharaj, generally we use this term very loosely, God. Especially in India, you just see and everywhere God, there is God. At every nook and corner, there's one God. Every nook and corner, there's one God. So you know which God to associate with, and who is there's like amalgamation of so many things. You go to Durga God, Ganesh God, this God, that God, whatnot. So there are so many God. To just to be clear about this thing, who is the supreme, the top, the unique. Because when I joined ISKCON in 2010, I came up this idea of, so I was searching for supreme, topmost, which someone which cannot be subject to any debate, and who is unique in nature and topmost. With this idea, I came to ISKCON in 2010 something. And when I came to know about Krishna, he's a supreme personality of Godhead, because there are so many gods.
So many gods.
So many gods. In
Ganesh
my
is also God. Durga is also God. Shiva is also God. There's so many gods.
so there's a
As Prabhupada said, Krishna is the head God, personality of God. They had a term in World War II, Supreme Allied Commander, because there were so many generals and so on. Someone, I forget who, was the Supreme Allied Commander. So then there's nobody above him. There may be so many generals, there may be so many commanders. Supreme Allied Commander, that's the top man. Supreme Leader, yeah. Yeah, in some of the Muslim countries, Middle Eastern countries, they have.
Speak in mic. For life. For recording for life.
No, you can say it. You use the mic. You become shy when the mic is there. Okay. Yes. Microphone.
As described in the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, the Supreme Person is the origin of all qualities. He is generally called Nirguna. Nirguna means whose qualities are beyond estimation. Guna means quality and Nir means beyond estimation. But impersonalists interpret this word Nirguna as having no quality. Because they are unable to estimate the qualities of the Lord in transcendental realization, they conclude that the Supreme Lord has no qualities. But that is actually not the position. The real position is that He is the original source of all qualities. All qualities are emanating constantly from Him. How, therefore, can a limited person count the qualities of the Lord? One may estimate the qualities of the Lord at one moment, but the next moment the qualities have increased. So it is not possible to make an estimation of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He is therefore called Nirguna, one whose qualities cannot be estimated. One should not uselessly labor in mental speculation to estimate the Lord's qualities. There is no need of adopting the speculative method or exercising the body to attain mystic yoga perfection. One should simply understand that the distress and happiness of this body are predestined. There is no need to try to avoid the distress of this bodily existence or to attempt to achieve happiness by different types of exercises. The best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead with body, mind, and words, and always be engaged in His service. This transcendental labor is fruitful, but other attempts to understand the absolute truth are never successful. Therefore, an intelligent man does not try to understand the absolute truth by speculative or mystic power. Rather, he engages in devotional service and depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows that whatever may happen to the body is due to his past fruitive activities. If one lives such a simple life in devotional service, then automatically he inherits the transcendental abode of the Lord. Actually, every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and a son of the Godhead. Each has the natural right to inherit and share the transcendental pleasures of the Lord, but due to the contact of matter, the conditioned living entities have been practically disinherited. If one adopts the simple method of engaging himself in devotional service, automatically he becomes eligible to be freed from material contamination and elevated to the transcendental position of associating with the Supreme Lord. Lord Brahma presented himself to Lord Krishna as the most presumptuous living creature because he wanted to examine the wonder of his personal power. He stole the boys and calves of the Lord in order to see how the Lord would recover them. Now Lord Brahma admitted that his attempt was most presumptuous, for he was attempting to test his energy before the person of original energy. Coming to his senses, Lord Brahma saw that although he was a very powerful living creature in the estimation of all other living creatures within this material world, his power was nothing in comparison to the power and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The scientists of the material world have invented wonders such as atomic weapons, and when tested in a city or some insignificant place on this planet, such powerful weapons create so called havoc. But if the atomic weapons are tested on the sun, what is their significance? They are insignificant there. Similarly, Brahma's stealing of the calves and boys from Sri Krishna may be a wonderful display of mystic power, but when Sri Krishna exhibited his expansive power in so many calves and boys and maintained them without effort, Brahma could understand that his own power was insignificant. Brahma addressed Lord Krishna as a tutor, because the Lord is never forgetful of a little service rendered by his devotee. He is so kind and affectionate towards his devotees that a little service by them is accepted by him as a great deal. Brahma has certainly rendered much service to the Lord. As the Supreme Personality in charge of this particular universe, he is, without a doubt, a faithful servant of Krishna. Therefore, he could appease Krishna. He asked that the Lord understand him as a subordinate servant whose little mistake and impudence might be excused. He admitted that he was puffed up by his powerful position as Lord Brahma. Because he is the qualitative incarnation of the mode of passion within this material world, this was natural for him, and therefore he committed the mistake. But Lord Brahma hoped that since he was, after all, Lord Krishna's subordinate, the Lord would kindly take compassion upon him and excuse him for his gross mistake. Lord Brahma realized his actual position. He is certainly the supreme teacher of this universe, in charge of the production of material nature, consisting of the complete material energy, false ego, sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Such a universe may be gigantic, but it can be measured, just as we measure our body as 7 spans. Generally, everyone's personal bodily measurement is calculated to be 7 spans of his hand. This particular universe may appear as a very gigantic body, but it is nothing but the measurement of 7 spans for Lord Brahma. Aside from this universe, there are unlimited other universes which are outside the jurisdiction of this particular Lord Brahma. Just as innumerable atomic and infinitesimal fragments pass through the holes of a screened window, so millions of and trillions of universes in their seedling form are coming out of the bodily pores of Mahavishnu, and that Mahavishnu is but a part of the plenary expansion of Krishna. Under these circumstances, although Lord Brahma is the supreme creature within this universe, what is his importance in the presence of Lord Krishna? Lord Brahma therefore compared himself to a little child within the womb of his mother. If the child within the womb plays with his hands and legs, while playing touches the body of the mother, is the mother offended with the child? Of course she isn't. Similarly, Lord Brahma may be a very great personality, and yet not only Brahma, but everything that is existing within the womb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's energy is all pervading. There is no place in the creation where it is not acting. Since everything is existing within the energy of the Lord, the Brahma of this universe and the Brahmas of the many other millions and trillions of universes are existing within the energy of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord is considered to be the mother, and everything existing within the womb of the mother is considered to be the child. And the good mother is never offended with the child, even if he touches the body of the mother by kicking his legs. Lord Brahma then said that his birth was from the lotus flower which blossomed from the navel of Narayana after the dissolution of the three worlds or three planetary systems known as Burloka, Bhuvarloka, and Svarloka. The universe is divided into three divisions, namely Svarga, Martya, and Pataloka. Patala. These three planetary systems are merged into water at the time of dissolution. At that time, Narayana, a plenary portion of Krishna, lies down on the water, and gradually a lotus stem grows from his navel, and from that lotus flower, Brahma is born. It is naturally concluded that the mother of Brahma is Narayana. Because the Lord is the resting place of all the living entities after the dissolution of the universe, he is called Narayana. The word Nara means the aggregate total of all living entities, and Ayana means the resting place. The form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is called Narayana because he rests himself on that water. In addition, he is the resting place of all living creatures. Besides that, Narayana is also present in everyone's heart, as confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita. In that sense also, the Lord is Narayana, as Ayana means the source of knowledge as well as the resting place. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita that the remembrance of the living entity is due to the presence of the supersoul within the heart. After changing the body, a living creature forgets everything of his past life, but because Narayana, the supersoul, is present within his heart, he is reminded by him to act according to his past desire. Lord Brahma wanted to prove that Krishna is the original Narayana, that he is the source of Narayana, and that Narayana is not an exhibition of the external energy, Maya, but is an expansion of spiritual energy. The activities of the external energy or Maya are exhibited after the creation of this cosmic world, and the original spiritual energy of Narayana was acting before the creation. So the expansions of Narayana from Narayana to, I can never pronounce this right, Karanadakashai Vishnu, from Karanadakashai Vishnu to Garbhodakashai Vishnu, from Garbhodakashai Vishnu to Kshirodakashai Vishnu, and from Kshirodakashai Vishnu to everyone's heart, are actually Krishna's expansions, manifestations of his spiritual energy. They are not conducted by the material energy, therefore they are not temporary. Anything conducted by the material energy is temporary, but everything executed by the spiritual energy is eternal. Lord Brahma reconfirmed his statement establishing Krishna as the original Narayana. He said that the Lord's gigantic universal form is resting on the water known as Garbhodaka. He spoke as follows: this gigantic universal form is another manifestation of your energy. On account of his resting on the water, this universal form is also Narayana, and we are all within the womb of this Narayana form. I see your different Narayana forms everywhere. I can see you on the water, I can feel you within my heart, and I can also see you before me now. You are the original Narayana. My dear Lord, in this incarnation, you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. You remain within the cosmic manifestation, and yet the whole creation is within you. This fact has already been proved by you when you exhibited the whole universal creation within your mouth before Mother Yashoda. By your inconceivable potency of Yoga Maya, you can effect such things without external help. My dear Lord Krishna, the whole cosmic manifestation that we are visualizing at present is all within your body. Yet I am seeing you outside, and you are also seeing me outside. How can such things happen without being influenced by your inconceivable energy? Lord Brahma stressed herein that without accepting the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot explain things as they are. He continued, my dear Lord, leaving aside all these things, all other things, and just considering today's happenings, what I have seen, are they not all due to your inconceivable energies? First of all, I saw you alone. Thereafter, you expanded yourself as your cowherd boyfriends, the calves, and all the existence of Vrindavan. Then I saw you and all the boys and calves as four-handed Vishnus, and they were being worshipped by all elements and all demigods, including myself. Again, they were all wound up, and you remained alone as you were before. Does this not mean that you are the Supreme Lord Narayana, the origin of everything, that everything emanates from you and again enters into you, leaving you the same as before? Persons who are unaware of your inconceivable energy cannot understand that you alone expand yourself as the creator Brahma, the maintainer Vishnu, and the annihilator Shiva. Persons who are not aware of things are contemplate that I, Brahma, am the creator. Vishnu is the maintainer and Lord Shiva is the annihilator. Actually, you alone are everything, creator, maintainer, and annihilator. Similarly, you expand yourself in different incarnations. Among the demigods, you incarnate as Vamanadev. Among the great sages, you incarnate as Parashurama. Among the human beings, you appear as yourself, Lord Krishna, or as Lord Rama. Among the animals, you appear as the bull incarnation, and among the aquatics, you appear as the fish incarnation. And yet you have no appearance or disappearance. You are always eternal. Your appearance and disappearance are made possible by your inconceivable energy, just to give protection to the faithful devotees and to annihilate the faithless demons. O my Lord, O all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Supersoul, controller of all mystic powers, no one can appreciate your transcendental pastimes as they are exhibited within these three worlds. No one can estimate how you have expanded your Yoga Maya and your incarnations and how you act by your transcendental energy. My dear Lord, this whole cosmic manifestation is just like a flashing dream, and its temporary existence simply disturbs the mind. As a result, we are full of anxiety in this existence. To live within this material world means simply to suffer and to be full of miseries, of all miseries. And yet, this temporary existence of the material world appears to be pleasing and dear on account of its having evolved from your body, which is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
In this section, it is elaborated how the universes come from Vishnu, and then he expands again into it. And I was wondering about one verse from the Brahma Samhita in that connection, which this verse, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagada, underquoting, which, as far as I understand it from the words, it's explaining how the Brahma, the Krishna's effulgence, is expanding into the material creation. So in that verse, there is no mention of Purusha avatars. So
they're mentioned separately.
Yes, but in that particular verse, seems to be described that the impersonal effulgence of Krishna, his bodily effulgence, it becomes what is that? Vibhuti binam. It becomes variegated. So
I once asked, I mentioned this last week or so, that I once asked Srila Prabhupada about that verse. Shashvatasya hidharmasya sukasya ikantikasya cha. That Krishna is the Brahmanohi Pratishtaham, is the support of the impersonal Brahma, which is the constitutional position of absolute happiness. Sukasya ikantikasya cha. So I asked Srila Prabhupada about that, because how could Brahma be the constitutional position? How could the impersonal Brahman? And Prabhupada gave the example that if you go to the sun, you go through the sunshine and you're still in the sunshine, but you're on the sun. The sunshine is included within, I'm paraphrasing because it was a long time ago I got the letter, but the sun is existing within the sunshine, and the sun is the source of the sunshine. So you can say the sunshine is the position of happiness. Finally, the sun is the source of that sunshine, even though it's within the sunshine. So the Lord is the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, so on, within the impersonal Brahma, but the Lord is the source of the impersonal Brahma. Is that okay? Think about it, okay. The impersonal Brahma is Krishna's energy, finally. That's the totality of Krishna's energy. So everything's coming from that. If Vasudeva Sarvamiti or Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, everything's coming from Krishna. So in that sense, everything's coming from his energy. The Brahmajyoti is not different from Krishna, so everything can be said to be coming from the Brahmajyoti. But the Brahmajyoti rests on Krishna. Brahmanohi Pratishta. Is that okay? You'll think about it. Anything else? Okay. Microphone has to come this way. Shashvatasya Chatarmasya Kasyaikantika.
My conclusion is, therefore, that you are the Supreme Soul, the Absolute Truth, and the Supreme Original Person, and although by your inconceivable transcendental potencies you have expanded yourself in so many Vishnu forms, and also in the living entities and other energies, you are the Supreme One without a second, the Supreme Super Soul. The innumerable living entities are simply like sparks of the original fire, your Lordship. The conception of the Supersoul as impersonal is wrongly accepted because I see that you are the original person. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge may think that because you are the son of Maharaj Nanda, you are not the original person, that you are born just like a human being. They are mistaken. You are the actual original person. That is my conclusion. In spite of your being the son of Nanda, you are the original person, and there is no doubt about it. You are the absolute truth, and you are not of this material darkness. You are the source of the original Brahmajyoti, as well as the material luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars. Your transcendental effulgence is identical with the Brahmajyoti, and as it is described in the Brahma Samhita, the Brahmajyoti is nothing but your personal bodily effulgence. There are many Vishnu incarnations and incarnations of your different qualities, but all those incarnations are not on the same level. You are the original lamp. Other incarnations may possess the same candle power as the original lamp, but the original lamp is the beginning of all light. And because you are not one of the creations of this material world, even after the annihilation of this world, your existence as you will continue. Because you are the original person, you are described in the Tapani Upanishad, as well as in the Brahma Samhita, as Govindam Adipurusham. Govinda is the original person, the cause of all causes. In the Bhagavad-Gita also, it is stated that you are the source of the Brahman effulgence. No one should conclude that your body is like an ordinary material body. Your body is akshara, indestructible. The material body is always full of the threefold miseries, but your body is Satchidananda Vigraha, Brahma Samhita 5.1, full of bliss, knowledge, and eternality. You are also Niranjana because your pastimes as the little son of Mother Yashoda or the lover of the gopis is never contaminated by the material qualities. And although you exhibited yourself as so many cowherd boys and calves, your transcendental potency was not reduced. You are always complete, as it is described in the Vedic literature. Even if the complete is taken away from the complete, the supreme absolute truth, it means the complete supreme absolute truth. And although many expansions from the complete are visible, the complete is one without a second. Since all your pastimes are spiritual, there is no possibility of their being contaminated by the material modes of nature. When when you place yourself as subordinate to your father and mother, Nanda and Yashoda, you are not reduced in your potency. This is an expression of your loving attitude toward your devotees. There is no second identity to compete with you. A person with a poor fund of knowledge concludes that your appearance and pastimes are simply designations. You are transcendental to both nescience and knowledge, and it is confirmed in the Gopala-tapani Upanishad. You are the original Amrita, indestructible nectar of immortality. As confirmed in the Vedas, Amritam Shashvatam Brahma. Brahman, Brahman, Brahman is the eternal supreme origin of everything, who has no birth or death. In the Upanishads, it is stated that the supreme Brahman is as effulgent as the sun and is the origin of everything, and that anyone who can understand that original person becomes liberated from material conditioned life. Anyone who can simply be attached to you by devotional service can know your actual position, birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. As confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita, simply by understanding your constitutional position, appearance, and disappearance, one can be immediately elevated to the spiritual kingdom after quitting this present body. Therefore, to cross over the ocean of material nescience, an intelligent person takes shelter of your lotus feet and is easily transferred to the spiritual world. There are many so-called meditators who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you are the Supreme Soul present in everyone's heart. Therefore, there is no necessity of one's meditating on something beyond you. One who is always absorbed in meditation on your original form of Krishna easily crosses over the ocean of material nescience. But persons who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul remain within this material world in spite of their so-called meditation. If by association of your devotees, a person comes to the knowledge that Lord Krishna is the original Super Soul, then it is possible for him to cross over the ocean of material ignorance. For instance, when a person takes a rope for a snake, he is filled with fear, but as soon as he understands that the rope is not a snake, he is liberated from fear. If one understands you, therefore, through your personal teachings, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, or through your pure devotees, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam and all other Vedic scriptures, if one realizes that you are the ultimate goal of understanding, he need no longer fear this material existence. So-called liberation and bondage have no meaning for a person who is already engaged in your devotional service, just as a rope is not fearful to a person who knows that it is not a snake. A devotee knows that this material world belongs to you, and he therefore engages everything in your transcendental loving service. Thus, there is no bondage for him. For a person who is already situated in the sun planet, there is no question of the appearance or disappearance of the sun in the name of day or night. It is also said that you, Krishna, are just like the sun, and that Maya is like darkness. When the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. So, for those who always remain in your presence, by engaging in your service, there is no question of bondage or liberation. They are already liberated. On the other hand, persons who falsely think themselves to be liberated without taking shelter of your lotus feet fall down because the intelligence is not pure. If one therefore thinks that the supersoul is something different from your personality, and thus searches out the supersoul or the supreme Brahman somewhere else in the forest or in the caves of the Himalayas, his condition is very lamentable. Your teachings in the Bhagavad-Gita are that one should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply surrender unto you, for that is complete. Because you are the supreme in every respect, those who are searching after the Brahman effulgence is also searching after you. And those who are searching after supersoul realization are also searching after you. You state in the Bhagavad Gita that you yourself, by your partial representation as the supersoul, have entered into this material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the supersoul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. One who is transcendental to such a position understands that you are unlimited. You are both within and without. Therefore, your presence is everywhere. Instead of searching for the supersoul anywhere else, a devotee only concentrates his mind on you within. Actually, one who is liberated from the material concept of life can search for you. Others cannot. The analogy of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, when one mistakes a rope for a snake, the existence of the snake is only within the mind. The existence of Maya similarly is only within the mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. When one forgets your personality, that is the conditioned state of Maya. Therefore, one who is fixed upon you both internally and externally is not illusioned. One who has attained a little result of devotional service can understand your glories. Even one striving for Brahman realization or Paramatma realization cannot understand these features of your personality unless you bestow on him the result of at least a slight bit of devotional service. One may be the spiritual master of many impersonalists, or he may go to the forest or to a mountain cave and meditate as a hermit for many, many years, but he cannot understand your glories without being favored by a slight degree of devotional service. Brahman realization or Paramatma realization are also not possible even after one searches for many, many years unless one is touched by the wonderful effect of devotional service. Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that in this life or in another life, wherever I may take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. Wherever I may be, I pray that I may be engaged in your devotional service. I do not even care what form of life I get in the future, because I can see that even in the form of cows and calves or cowherd boys, the devotees are so fortunate to always be engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be one of them instead of such an exalted person as I am now, for I am full of ignorance. The gopis and cows of Vrindavan are so fortunate that they have been able to supply their breast milk to you. Persons who are engaged in performing great sacrifices and offering many valuable goats in sacrifice cannot attain the perfection of understanding you, but simply by devotional service, these innocent village women and cows are all able to satisfy you with their milk. You have drunk their milk to satisfaction, yet you have never satisfied, yet you are never satisfied as much by those engaged in performing sacrifices. I am simply surprised, therefore, with the fortunate position of Maharaj Nanda, Mother Yashoda, and the cowherd men and gopis, because you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, are existing here as their most intimate, lovable object. My dear Lord, no one can actually appreciate the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan. We are all demigods controlling deities of the various senses of the living entities, and we are proud of enjoying such privileges. But actually, there is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan, because they are actually relishing your presence and enjoying your association by dint of their sensory activities. We may be proud of being controllers of the senses, but here the residents of Vrindavan are so transcendental that they are not under our control. Actually, they are enjoying their senses through service to you. I shall therefore consider myself fortunate to be given a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan in any of my future lives. My dear Lord, I am therefore not interested in either.
Let's stop there. There's still more to the chapter, as you can see. Maybe you can bookmark it for me. There's still more, but our time is running short. Again, we have to finish by 6:30. Are there some questions or comments? Here, Lord Brahma is beginning what will be an extended appreciation of Vrindavan. Lord Brahma is the topmost person within the universe, but he considers himself inferior to the residents of Vrindavan. And we'll hear more about the glories of Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan are actually not under the control of the demigods, Lord Brahma says. And we're the controllers of everything, but Vrindavan is so transcendental that it's not under our control. Anything else?
So, having come to Vrindavan, are we also beyond the jurisdiction of the demigods?
Are you able to?
Are we also now beyond the jurisdiction of the demigods?
Actually, every living entity is beyond the jurisdiction of the demigods. Prabhupada gave that example that the existence of the snake is just in the mind. There's actually no snake. So our existence in Maya and conditional life is only because of the mind. As soon as the mind is immersed in Krishna consciousness, and there's no Maya. Yaha Krishna taha Maya nayadigar. So potentially we're beyond in our real position. The Sango Hiyayam Purusha, the living entity, has nothing to do with material energy. But because we imagine ourselves to be products of material nature or to be controllers or enjoyers of material nature, then we become subject to these things. As soon as we change our consciousness to Krishna consciousness, then we're beyond the jurisdiction of material nature.
is that simply because we are Krishna conscious, or is it because as soon as we are Krishna conscious, Krishna or conscious of Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate by?
You can look at it from different angles of vision, but actually we have nothing to do with material nature. Our position is like that of a man seeing his head cut off in a dream. If he can see his head cut off, then he must still have his head. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes. Gopal, Jai.
So in many places throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, he talks about how the demigods transfer a living entity from one body to another at the time of death. But is this transferring and this moving around only going on because the living entity is choosing to remain attached to the subtle body?
Yeah. As soon as one gets freed from attachment to the subtle body, gross body and subtle body, he's beyond birth and death.
So when Srila Prabhupada says that the process of devotional service dissolves the subtle body,
Yeah, in Bhagavatam it said that. Just as digestion dissolves everything.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Kirtan. You're leading Kirtan again. Okay, house rules. 1 Kirtan, 1 tune. Can you handle it? Okay. Temple? Oh, that's up. We won't throw too many rules at once.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama, Hare Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol.
Jai Om Vishnupad Punamansa Pariprad Vikacharya Stodra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Ramana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.